Yo, what's up? Welcome to my YouTube channel. I haven't made videos on YouTube for like 9 years, to be honest. But I started posting on TikTok about half a year ago, and I thought to myself, why don't I just make some YouTube videos? It doesn't need to be about anything first. I could just be talking. People ask me sometimes, they're like, yo, what do you guys see them ducks? Like, yo, what do I post? Make a video on not knowing what to post, and maybe you'll I was gonna bring my camera out today. I know I just what's the word, digressed, but I was like, oh no, it's not light enough. But I think it is light enough. I think it was just a dark cloud at the time. But yeah, I want to get on here just to talk about some longer form stuff, just vent instead of the short form stuff you see on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, it's just a dopamine grab. It's just stimulating. Whereas on here I can just speak, just let it flow instead of doing it again and again, or trying to, like trying to compile everything to a short version. I can just take my time. But yeah, what I want to talk about is like overcoming that social anxiety, that fear of judgment. Like, everyone's got it. Someone says they were born without it. Maybe they were, right? Maybe they're just a pro when it comes to getting on the camera and not caring about what people think. But the reality is, for a lot of people, they're thinking about what people are thinking halfway through them speaking about this stuff. Like, me, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, that's just, it's normal, it's natural. But there's a version of me that's like just overthinking it, deep in it, instead of just letting it flow, letting it pass, like a cloud. But I'm getting pure notifications, but I'm just gonna sit it out, see what happens. But sitting out here, it makes me slow down quite a bit, instead of moving around, working non-stop. When you sit down outside, it's easier for you to take a step back and not think about all the pressure that's on you now, but how far you've come already, just to be here thinking about doing that thing. It is a thing though, like, thinking about doing it and doing it are two different things. You could have the best idea, but you don't execute it. And I don't mean doing it and succeeding in whatever way you feel succeeding is. I mean succeeding in, like, overcoming that version of yourself that didn't think you could do it. Even if you do fail, it's not failure if you look at it from the right perspective. If you understand that you tried and that's all you can do at the end of the day. You're not going to be the best at it the first time around, but if you continuously put in the reps every day and turn up for yourself, there's no reason why you can't get better. And if you don't get better, at least you can say you've tried, like I just said. But it's just about embracing the imperfection, embracing the fact that it's going to be ugly at first, or it might be ugly for the next year or two, but are you willing to do this without any results for a year or two? Could even be 10 years. Are you putting a gap? Are you putting a certain time on, how long it's going to take you to reach this point? Or are you just going to keep on turning up for yourself until you do reach that point? And when you do, you'll realize, holy, this isn't the point. The point was everything I just did. That is the whole point. It's the journey. I think we get caught up in, like, achieving certain things, achieving this, achieving that, achieving, like, external things. You're dreaming, you're daydreaming, instead of looking at what's right in front of you and changing it for the better, changing it however you want to change it. You can't expect your mind to be clear when your room's a dump. You can't expect yourself to feel good if all you're eating's crap and you're smoking all the time. You know what I mean? You started running, and you're struggling, bro. You smoke a ton of cigarettes every day. Do you know what I mean? How are you gonna expect to be fresh and spick and span? Fallen leaves, man. I'm just seeing these fallen leaves, and it's like, you know what I mean? I don't even know, right? I digress once again. It just caught my eye, and that might be a little metaphor that I can't even articulate, and maybe you can, or something of the sorts. But like, the main thing I'm trying to say here is, you won't get to this place if you don't try at all. Like, if you don't start with what you have, oh, I need a better camera, oh, I need to get this confident before I can do this. You don't need to get that confident. You gain that confidence, you build that confidence. You don't just get it. It doesn't spawn in one day and then boom, you're confident. You know what I mean? You put in the reps, you keep on working at it, and then over time your confidence builds naturally, like a birdie. But yeah, like, a lot of the time I'm stuck in my head, for so long I was stuck in my head procrastinating about posting on social media. I knew it was like, it was the first step for me, it was the first big hurdle, right? I convinced myself all the time, bro, you've been jumping over hurdles, man. I hadn't jumped over no hurdles. It was just this thing I was telling myself to keep me small, to keep me happy with being small. Instead of jumping the first hurdle, squirrel. Oh, yo, they're fighting. I don't know if you can see that. Bro, one's on the tree. You might see him go up there. The other one's there, just chilling. Yo, they're scrapping, bro. Yo, they're scrapping over some net or something, man. But that's like your mind, bro. It's like, you both want the same thing, growth, but one's like, maybe not with the squirrel, but like, one side of yourself wants real growth, but it's hard, right? It understands it's hard. The other one likes the idea of growth and knows sitting with that is easy. You know what I mean? Sitting with that false gratitude is easier than working through the flames. I can't believe I just saw that. Squirrel scrap. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but I was like, yo, it's a squirrel, and I was like, yeah, that's 2 squirrels. But yeah, like I was saying, there was, for so long I was procrastinating it and overthinking it. I was convincing myself where I was pretty much like completing the whole hurdle race, not even the first hurdle. And I got over that first hurdle, and I kept on jumping over it. I kept on doing that same action which I overcame the first time, and eventually I was like, I already know this. I already know how to jump over this first hurdle. And I was getting into that version again, where I was acting like, I was giving myself the gratification that I was at that point just because I jumped over the first hurdle. But because that was so far from where I started, that's why I was, because I was still in that version of myself that was like, you've come far, you know what I mean? And then I started to realize, this is the start of something. This is the start of the real race, you know what I mean? I jump over that first hurdle, and now I'm understanding how to jump over the next one. Posting on YouTube is the next one. You can't be content with whatever changes or whatever positive changes you make. What is that? Yo, I see a fish. I thought it was like a stingray, but it's definitely not a stingray. Not in here. But what was I saying? with every change you make, be happy that you made that change, but don't sit with it. Don't go back to that old version of yourself that's giving yourself a false version of like gratification. Like if people smoke and then they say, yo, I'm quitting, and then that gives them that sense of what they feel like is on the other side of quitting, instead of actually working through the flames. But we've all got our own, we're all going to experience this in our own ways. So my way might not be how your way goes. You might not even have that version of yourself that gives it self-gratification. You know what I mean? Maybe you're just struggling to get over the first hurdle. Literally, you're actually trying, putting in the work. You can't compare anything. I used to be someone, I used to be in these conversations and people used to compare trauma. And I got to the point, I'm like, you can't compare these things. Because someone might have the worst thing ever said to them in your eyes, whatever, say something about their, parents or whatever, and they're just like, okay. And then the other person, you say, yo, what was that you just did? Crazy. Like, everyone's experiencing, I don't know, I think I'm waffling here. I think I've veered from my main point. But I think it's literally just showing up for yourself every day and not being content with the changes you made yesterday. You want to get better every day. If you got better today than you did, if you got better yesterday and you do that same thing again today, you're sustaining that, like, that growth. You're not growing on the growth. You don't see a tree grow to a certain point and be like, right, that's it, bro. I've grown. I've grown, baby. It keeps growing. You're no different to a tree. Might see that as a bit woo-woo. If so, might not be the video for you. But, maybe some people might see this on, it made sense to me, you know what I mean? And it would make sense to the older version of myself if he was reading this, if I was reading this. Quack. But, yeah. You're gonna have people judge you, you're gonna have yourself judge you. You're gonna be, in some cases, like, you're gonna be more rooted in their beliefs than your own beliefs, than your own, like, is the word will? I don't know. It's like you're gonna be trusting their opinions more than you even trust your own, because you've diluted that so much by procrastinating and overthinking it so much that you don't even know if that is the right choice for you, if that is the right thing to do for you, because you've just been believing what other people are believing for so long. You don't want to live in the eyes of other people. You've got your own two eyes, you've got your own thoughts. You can't be swayed by other people's opinions of you. People are going to have opinions of you. That's not in your control. But what is in your control is what you do with your own energy, you know what I mean? With your own intention, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, what you want to do with yourself, right? Do you want to live, do you want to be just catering to certain people and you don't want to upset certain people? At first it might be like that. You can't look at it in a bad way, right? You gotta understand we've all got to start somewhere. When I first made TikToks, I must have made 50 to 60 different tries. I'd I'd start the video, I was like, oh, I don't like how I look. Start the video again, oh, I don't like how I sounded. Start the video again, oh, maybe these people are gonna think that. And you won't learn how to be yourself more on camera until you just keep doing it and keep, you know what I mean, keep getting those reps in. I'm still at foundational level. I'm still, you know, nowhere near where I want to be, if that place is, you know what I mean, even a place. But, you know, it's things like these, like this video right here is bringing me a lot of warmth, because, you know, this is literally just me speaking to my older self. You know, I mean, this is what I would have wanted to hear 6 months back when I first started posting. People are going to judge you. You know what I mean? Don't be content with that first bit of growth. Keep growing, create, and then move on, bro. Don't look back on it. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, I used to smoke a bit. Sometimes I'd make a video and I'd watch it back after I'd had a smoke. Worst decision ever. And I wouldn't end up posting it. I've got it in my drafts, and eventually I probably will post it. But, you know, the herb, for a lot of people, you know, it's really holding them back, and it was holding me back. And I was convincing myself that it wasn't. I was convincing myself that, you know, I was a herbivore, and it was just something that I had to work through, instead of, you know, cutting it out. And I'm working through my stuff, because that's all it is. You're not comfortable with your thoughts, so you want to escape your thoughts, and then you don't remember what happened last night. You might have had some mad introspection, but you didn't remember it. And that, you know, same with drugs. It's all just escaping. You know, it's doom scrolling, escaping. I don't see videos like this as escaping, you know, but there are so many videos on YouTube that are just catered to escapism, or just, you know, numbing the brain, just switching off, you know. Maybe not this video, but certain videos, you can switch off, but you're still tuned in. You're not just switched off and just, but yeah, go create, bro. Like, it doesn't need to be content creation, bro, but there's something in you, there's something in all of us that wants to do that thing, but we're scared about what people think. And that's always going to be there. You know, you might, you know, drown it down with drink over the years, or you might drown it down with the weed, but it's still going to be there. Always. You know, you just have to take that leap. You can't be, I was like that for so long, you know. I was DJing for a while. You know, I still like DJing, I still like drum and bass and music in general, but I just put so much pressure on myself, and I think I thought I had to live up to something. But the truth is, man, every moment, you know what I mean, you're dying. Every moment you're becoming a different version of yourself, and so, you know, that version of myself wasn't as alive as it was when I was 17, 18 years old. That's just the truth, and it took me so long to actually just let go of that, instead of holding on to, you know, something that wasn't, just wasn't as potent as it was before. It was like I had some, you know, holding on to some dried out skunk, bro, or like, hopefully, you know what I mean, like, you know, the flower was really potent at first, and I'd get a hit of, you know, smelling that flower and seeing that. But over time, I didn't water that flower enough, and that flower wasn't the same as it was, but I was expecting it to be. Got 2 ducklings. 2 duckies. I don't know if you can see them. You see them by the wood there. But yeah, same with, you know, it's just identity, you know. Like, I used to identify as someone who smoked, and it took me a while. It took me a while to get through that. It took me 4 years, and for so long I saw 4 years wasted. You know, 4 years stagnant. But now I'm starting to see that, you know, I had to experience that. I had to go through, you know, phases with drugs, you know, phases of bed rotting, phases of consumption, isolation. I think it builds you, you know. It's just how you look at it when you come out the other side. I'm not out the other side, but, you know, I just started to look at it from a different perspective, you know. I see you had something terrible happen to you. You could either see that as something that's gonna be your anchor for any sort of, you know, confrontation or anything that happens within the family or something. You can use that as a crutch, or, you know, you don't. And if anyone does ask about it, you tell them how it is. You tell them that, you know, I wouldn't be who I am without this. I'm grateful it happened to me. You know, not all negative is negative. Yeah, I mean, there's positives in the negatives, and there's negatives in the positives, you know. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap this one up. Honestly, yeah, I feel great speaking on camera on YouTube. I feel like I feel a lot more free. I can just let things flow and get a bit more off my chest, you know, overcoming a new hurdle. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. God bless. Take it easy, man.